Hey everybody, welcome back to another CineFix Now Roundtable. We've got the intimate group, the intimate number, the most intimate of numbers, 4.
Except for 3 from last week.
3 from, well, that barely counts.
But we're at least back in this
room. But we're
room.
back in the whiteboard room. Yes, that's the important thing. So the biggest thing that's happening this week is all of these new release dates for superhero movies that literally every studio's, they're planting flags.
No title.
5-6 years out. No titles, no anything.
No locked in. We're making a superhero movie here, here, and here.
Personally looking forward to Untitled DC films that comes out on 7/27/18.
The Untitled WB event film.
The WB event films are what
Totally
I'm most
just-
anticipating.
Yeah.
Because I don't know what an event film is.
Well, there's
it's the anticipation of making a lot of money.
It'll be Justice League, or it'll be, there was that rumored Green Lantern and Flash team up.
That was a crazy list that came out from DC,
Will almost
right?
certainly be
Yeah.
Harry Potter's.
But exactly.
Those Harry Potter's films.
Oh,
yeah, no, that's probably
that
because
makes
they're
sense, doesn't
they're
it?
Christmassy and they're Warner
Yeah.
Brothers and they're not DC.
Well, it's funny. Think of those dates as
piece.
real estate. You know, they have to they have to plant their flag first, even 7 years down the line.
We've already run into that with Captain America 3 and Man of Steel, and obviously DC blinked first because Man of Steel,
that's the brilliance of
Dawn of Justice
right.
got moved up. I did a little math here. 30, up to a possible 30 movies from 2015 to 2020. So starting next May, Age of Ultron, June 15, Fan 4, July 15, Ant-Man, March 16, Batman vs. Superman, May 16, Cap 3, May 16, X-Men Apocalypse, July 16, Doctor Strange, maybe. That's still unofficial, but maybe. August 16, DC. November 16, Sinister 6. May 17, Marvel. Also in 17 there is the Wolverine 2. July 17, Fan 4 2, maybe. That's another. July 17 is a DC movie. July 17, Guardians 2. November 17, DC. November 17, Marvel. Somewhere also in 2017, we're getting the Sony female superhero movie that they just told us about recently. Then March 18th.
Do you think it's going to happen, though? I mean, it's so ambiguous,
They
isn't
could
it?
totally blink on that too, because
I feel like they just did that for press because everything's falling apart, right? Like the whole thing with Sinister 6.
But they've got a release date for it if they need it.
if it makes DC pin down Wonder Woman or Marvel pin down a Black Widow, I don't really care.
It won't though. Sony's like the little runt of a kid on the playground at this point.
really
Like,
is.
he's getting pushed around. But moving into 2018, there's a DC movie, a Venom Carnage, May 18.
Yeah,
Also sometime
cool.
in 2018, an Amazing Spider-Man 3, and that again might not actually happen too. July 18, Marvel. July 18, there's a Fox superhero team up. July 18 is also a DC movie.
Is that when we're finally going to get Fantastic Four and the X-Men together?
X-Men? I don't have a clue. November 18, Marvel. November 18, WB event film. April 19, The Batman, maybe. That's another rumor. May 2019, Marvel. Then June 19, DC. April 2020, DC. June 2020, DC. November 2020, another DC event film. That is possibly 30 superhero films from 2015 to 2020.
I'm exhausted. I haven't even seen them
already,
yet.
right? So, and you know, they come out and just right smack in the middle of the year. So from March to November of 2016, we have 6 superhero movies. May to November, of 2017, we have 8.
No way.
8 more in 2018. So 21 of these 30 movies are coming out in a 30-month window between March 2016 and November 2018.
So
21 in essentially 2.5 years.
Yeah.
So one every other month-ish.
Okay.
Yeah.
Basically nothing between December and
So
March,
what we're saying is
Right, but March is gonna be now a
budget
big
movie
area.
coming out from now on is a superhero movie.
Pretty much.
This is what we like to call the bubble.
So, you know, like I said, we're getting 30 in the next 5 years. If you go back 6 years to when Ironman, I just picked the first Ironman coming out.
Right.
That's when
yeah,
we
that
started.
was a
That's
turning
the-
point.
If you go back
yeah.
to 2008 through Guardians just recently, that's 19 superhero films in 6 years.
Oh my God, no way!
And that's even including, that's what I count, and that's even including Ghost Rider, Spirit of Vengeance, and Punisher Warzone. And those weren't even major And I mean, we're talking, and so.
But that can't be including everything. That can't be like R.I.P.D. and stuff also, right?
No,
it's just Marvel, DC.
Yeah.
All it's going to take to catapult this whole thing is like one movie to be substandard to the degree that,
Green
Lantern was substandard, and suddenly the 2020 releases are looking a little shaky.
I would agree with you, but the 22 movies that are coming out in that 2.5 year window between 2016 and 2018, it's going to be too late.
Yeah.
That's true.
If the first movie that comes out in like March of 2016 is it's too late. The other movies are already working on it.
That's why we tweeted earlier this week saying that this DC schedule, which prompted this whole discussion, looked really ambitious. Is that I feel like with Marvel, I don't know what their total is of those 30, but like Marvel, I feel like has earned its next 12 sequels because its quality has been that good. I don't know if Man of Steel really has bought them the cred to map this out. Even I rather liked Man of Steel. I thought it was pretty good, and it certainly made buckets of money. But I don't know if it's bought the trust of the public, so to speak.
Right, but Man of Steel, Superman and Batman are bigger than Man of Steel or Dark Knight Rises. These are iconic characters that have been around for 70, 80 years. So it doesn't even matter if they're bad; they're still going to do them.
And some of these are totally going to be Sandman, and not necessarily they're going to be the guardians of
they're not
the
going to be the
DC
universe.
It's just
stories. They're just DC property.
The one thing that felt very bold about this, and they had to do it because they have to plant their flags in the release schedules, is that Dawn of Justice hasn't come out yet. If Dawn of Justice is received less well than Man of Steel, this whole thing looks kind of arrogant.
They'll just kick Snyder out, and then they'll do a Justice League movie, recast everybody, right?
Yeah.
To your point about whether or not Warner Brothers and DC have earned it with Man of Steel, I don't think they specifically have earned it. I feel like Marvel has just opened the door for everybody. Marvel has earned the credibility for superhero movies in general to just go, do what you want.
Right. So
Here we go.
The closest equivalent I can think of, and a lot of industry press has talked about this, is Marvel is the equivalent of Pixar circa Toy Story 1.
Sure.
Right. They are Pixar. DC is right now the DreamWorks. And then Sony's like that other.
Sony is
and it's just it's
Blue
the
Sky.
deluge of CG animated films.
Yeah.
Right.
Because there have been good comic book movies. I think largely the public will just recognize them as a comic book movie.
Right.
Regardless of Fox Marvel versus Sony Marvel or Marvel proper or DC or whatever, it's it's another superhero movie. And those are cool right now, so I'll go see whatever. There's no, they might not distinguish the way that, they wouldn't distinguish between, which studio made Despicable Me versus which studio made
Reality. And I think
so.
The one thing that this also just made me think is I might not have time to see any non-comic book movies in the next 6 years. And I hope I don't have any kids in the next 6 years, or I'm going to miss all of these, right?
Honestly, I'm done. My kid's getting here in October, so I'm not going to see any of these movies.
And by the time your kid's old enough to take them, around about 6 or 7, she'll want to go see them.
Right. Well, it'll be earlier than that.
It's frustrating for me because I love the art house film. That's my entire reason for being in this industry is the art house film. Yeah. But I have this weird obligation to see Ninja Turtles. I know it's going to be the worst thing ever, but I have this obligation. I'm it's the Ninja Turtles. I have to see it opening weekend.
But I think the other thing that might happen here, because we talk about the bubble and we talk about franchise exhaustion and even just superhero exhaustion in general, right now there are $200 million movies and there are $20 million movies, and there's not a lot in between. And we've talked about this before. That's why Fast and Furious is on their 7th movie, because that's literally the only action. There's Fast and Furious, there's the Expendables, and that's literally the only action movies that we have outside of superheroes.
If you're not into geek stuff, there isn't a lot for you right now.
So maybe we are due for some exhaustion so that we can get a little more, and so that we can have a little bit more variety, because I do think that's one of the things that made Guardians so successful. On top of it being really cool, is that it was different and it was fresh and
it was just a space movie
that felt more personal, more Like,
So you'd like to
it was a
think
James Gunn film.
You'd like to think that with all these dates, like they're going to keep doing that.
Yeah.
Hopefully,
hopefully
maybe
they keep
Sandman will
doing
be a $50 million movie, or
I think the big thing to take away from this, from all these release dates, is one, it's amazing how studios are just grasping for real estate 5 years out, and they may or may not have a plan. Because I know that Sony may or may not do another Spider-Man movie. They may or may not do the female superhero. Up to possibly 30 whole superhero movies over the next 5 years. So.
Yeah.
Strap in, I guess. If it works the way that competition should work, in every other aspect of the real world, then we win, and everything keeps sort of raising the bar and one-upping each other. Or we're going to get 30 people trying to rip off Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah.
So we'll see. We'll talk to you in 5 years after all of this happens. We'll be gone until then. But... there you go. There you have it. That's a shitload of comic book movies coming out.
I feel like I have a crystal ball, though, and I know that like Avengers 3 is going to be like the last great superhero movie in a very long time. Because I think by the time Avengers 3 comes out, it's going to be like the one little like pebble that caused the avalanche. Yeah. I feel after Avengers 3, people are going to be like, enough.
It's like everybody's just like trying to get through a door.
Yeah,
and they're all
done.
stuck, and and then Avengers 3 comes in and just everybody pops through.
Yeah, so we're like, we can't do this anymore. Let's watch Richard Linklater movies now. I guarantee Linklater's probably going to end up directing because Shazam or something.
Yeah,
so
because there's going to be several. I mean, statistically, half of these movies have to be failures. I mean, there's going to be a handful of Green Lanterns in here.
For all that there's a lot of these,
it's got to be.
There's a decent amount of time between each one from a human sitting in 2017 perspective. Like you just saw Untitled DC film from July, and then you have to wait another few weeks before you get to see.
A few weeks, right?
Okay, July is a bad example.
That's what you're looking at is full of bad examples for this, because there's seriously 21 movies in the span of 30 months.
But still, if you are a person who goes to see a movie every week, you will still have time for non-superhero movies.
Right, but everything else is going to be quasi-superhero-ish. There will be Star Wars. There'll be YA, books turned into movies. I mean,
it's nothing. We've got year-long tentpole.
We're entering a new
for the next 5 years.
Well, that's what VOD is. I have to think that's what VOD is going to come in and fill the gaps with. I don't want to go to the movie theater to see maybe I can only do the driving, parking, $15 movie ticket thing for Guardians of the Galaxy, but I still totally want to see Boyhood.
Right.
And what's interesting is as these movies have gotten more sort of prevalent, what we've seen is there's the $200 million movies, and then there's the $20 million movies, and just fewer movies in general.
Right.
But now, this is obviously they're ramping everything up, and there's going to be a lot of very expensive movies. Not all of them will be in the $200 to $300 million range. Some of them will be in the 70 or 80, I'm sure. I can't imagine they're going to make any of these for less than that.
No.
CGI budgets alone. Yeah. So, maybe with Netflix and with Amazon and with all these other, other content sort of portals that are out there now, maybe all of their low budget stuff, and obviously Marvel's doing it already with their deal with Netflix. So maybe it's either going to be $200 million movies or a Netflix series. It's the middle class of movies is gone completely.
It's funny that we didn't even mention the fact there's also a slew of television shows based on comic book properties right now too. Agent Carter, we have S.H.I.E.L.D., Gotham, Arrow, Flash.
Yeah.
It's
endless.
We're clearly just going to keep going unless I put a stop to it. So other things. Well, how about this rumored cast of True Detective season 2?
It's pretty cool.
That's pretty cool.
We've got Elizabeth Moss, who is great.
Right.
Who's on Mad Men, and then if you haven't seen Top of the Lake is really outstanding. If you're into sort of gritty crime, gritty mystery kind of TV. Top
Is that where they grabbed the still of her with the gun that's on every website?
I believe so. Yeah. Colin Farrell.
He's so hit and miss. I think sometimes he's amazing, and other times he's horrible. So it should be really interesting. No, I'm sorry, but listen,
it's whether or not he's acting. You know?
Yeah.
If he's acting, he's fantastic. If he's just like there, like, you just want my face for this, all right.
And if he's dabbling in a drug problem, like Miami Vice,
Right.
he's horrible. But in Bruges, he's amazing. He's in the same boat as Taylor Kitsch, where it didn't quite happen for him. He didn't get to Tom Cruise level.
I would disagree.
But he's
with
not
you.
like
Taylor Kitsch, by the way, is the next name on our list of.
You think you could
True Detective
sell
season 2
like
cast
you think he's gonna star in a $100 million movie?
Taylor Kitsch?
Yeah. No, not Taylor Kitsch. Colin Farrell.
Here's why I think they're different.
Well, they did
Taylor
that with
Kitsch.
Alexander, and that didn't work. But that was a terrible movie on levels.
The same way that Battleship was a terrible movie for Taylor Kitsch. But here's the way that they're different is that I feel like Taylor Kitsch is being like shoved down my throat. It's like somebody decided he's going to be a movie star, and we didn't get a choice.
But I
love
that
it's
he's
not
in
up
True
to us.
Detective because he's third billing on a TV show, which is precisely where he belongs. That's what
totally
he does
fair.
best.
I think he's a very talented. Character actor who because he looks good on a poster, they want to be a franchise leading star, but it hasn't happened. But a lot of them are bad movies though. Like I know we don't want to blame Taylor Kitsch, but like John Carter is a terrible movie, what was the other one that was in Battleship was a terrible movie.
I don't disagree, but that's not. But they were bad movies, but he was also bad in them.
Yeah,
he was bad in them, but those characters they both completely lacked complexity of any kind.
Because there was nothing to chew on. There was nothing to.
But you know why they keep on casting him is because every casting person, every director loved Friday Night Lights,
right?
And they're all like, he's amazing, and we know he's the best actor. I think he's gonna have a huge TV career. I think he'll have a huge. I think he'll show up in like one of those Castle-esque shows on CBS or ABC, where he's like the cool cop and everyone's gonna love him.
He could have been Sawyer on Lost. If they were doing Lost right now, he could have been Sawyer.
That's what that's the thing. I think he's a good second billing or third billing TV star. Like I think somebody else needs to be the hero,
somebody else
he
needs
can
to carry
be
and he can just be there.
So there's one more guy.
There's one more guy, Vince Vaughn.
Yeah.
Vince Vaughn going to be in True Detective, which is just so bad shit. I can't wait for it.
That'd be great.
And apparently he's playing like a shady businessman. He's not a murderer, but he's a criminal of some kind. He's like a thug kind of guy. So it's like if Vince Vaughn trying to play like weird tough guy.
I think
kind of fascinating.
I think right now is the time of his career to play villains. They tried it early in his career with the Psycho remake and that Clay Pigeons. It didn't work. He was too weird. But I think at this point he's sufficiently creepy enough to play a villain.
Well, you get a little older, you put on a little weight, and you can be creepier.
Because you watch his comedies now, it's relatively unnerving. There is something creepy about him.
Well, even in Old School, that's why he was so good in Old School, because he was a husband and a father, and he was like hanging out with these college. And there's that one scene where he's like trying to pick up the girl, and he's like, "Oh, wait a minute," and you're like, "No, yours is so weird and dirty." Elizabeth Moss, Colin Farrell, Taylor Kitsch kind of makes sense on, but Vince Vaughn is the wild card here. I think that would be
really.
Yeah,
I think Colin Farrell's the wild card.
Yeah, but Colin Farrell's done like intense stuff before.
Yeah, I guess.
So that's why it makes. I mean, in the sense that Matthew McConaughey and Woody Harrelson also made sense. Like Colin Farrell's like movie star going to do an HBO thing.
Yeah.
Now we should say these are not confirmed. The Wrap is reporting that these are the main 4 targets.
It's tough though. McConaughey and Harrelson are just great actors in their own regard. I mean, at the end of the day, even though they've done a lot of like stupid roles, they're very talented. So it's going to be very difficult to match that.
It's going to be very difficult for season 2, no matter who's in it, to sort of live up, because it was lightning in a bottle in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
And the Lex Luthor-esque plot worries me. It's like a real estate scam.
Yeah.
It's like interesting.
He's going to make land.
But
it's Chinatown.
The writer has talked about it before, about it being sort of the revelation of the occult nature of the mass transit system in the United States.
Okay.
That's the best sentence I've heard all day.
And
the occult nature of the transportation system.
The occult nature of the mass transit system. Like you could have taken a handful of those like fridge magnet words and just like thrown them and gotten that sentence.
That's what we're running with.
Yeah. We'll have to see if these 4 folks get officialized here in the next little bit, so that they can start figuring out the occult nature of the mass transit system. Okay, but moving on to the last thing we wanted to talk about this week is one of, and I remember reading this when I was a kid, and you're a big fan of Wrinkle in Time. right?
Dave's making this face.
I have no idea what
so
this is.
weird. How
I have
did
no
you not
idea.
read
How
that?
did you avoid it?
It was the first science fiction novel I ever read.
Really?
Yeah.
A lot of people our age. It was the first science fiction
majority
novel.
of America. That was probably the
That
first,
or The
right?
Giver, actually, and we'll see how
Yeah.
The Giver turns
Right.
out. But like A Wrinkle in Time, I am way more psyched about because
When I heard A Wrinkle in Time, I thought it was either an episode of the original Star Trek or a newer episode of Doctor Who.
It could have been
it
both.
could have
and
been
it sort
either,
of
and the
is both.
plot is actually a little bit like a little bit of each.
Yeah.
It's a brother and sister and their neighbor, and they travel through space and time with three like mysterious otherworldly beings,
Yeah, sort of like
basically.
alien witch.
Alien
kind of-
witch women
Yeah.
to find their father who disappeared 5 or 6 years ago and hasn't been seen since. And
I mean, it's Goonies and Star Trek and Doctor Who, and,
Nice.
and it's great.
It just sounds like classic
And it's-
Disney. You
Yeah.
know.
we
the
need to
effects.
acknowledge that like 11 years ago they made a TV movie of it, and it was pretty TV movie-esque.
I thought we all decided we didn't need to acknowledge that.
But I mean,
We did
but that's
decide.
the-
Very good.
Well, no, we don't need to acknowledge that as a movie that in anywhere interferes with the need to make a theatrical release of
There
it.
you
But
go.
like
That's a good way to say
by contrast, the TV movie was TV movie-ish. The acting was okay. The effects were terrible. But now, like, I feel like the CG is at a level where you can have them pop into the two-dimensional space and represent that in a way that makes sense. I feel like it's one of those few children/YA novels that hasn't been adapted into a movie because the technology really hasn't existed.
I also feel like the reason they're doing this is I think a lot of it's tied into Jennifer Lee writing. I mean, she wrote Frozen,
Yeah.
which is like the biggest budget, which made the most money that Disney's ever made off a single movie, and it's very female oriented. So I think it's very cool that that kind of success is leading to something like this.
Breeding
then.
more of the same success.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
look, it's exciting because it's a young adult. It's another young adult movie.
Yeah,
which
I mean, it's-
obviously those things print money. Everybody loves those now. And it's one of the older guard
Yeah.
of the YA. It's not one of these new like
Well, this
girl has to choose between two perfectly fine guys. Who
Yeah, it
love
doesn't
her.
really even
Meanwhile, there's a dystopia.
Yeah, you're right. YA has been perverted into this whole like weird
It's not been perverted.
love
It's just-
story
it's
meets
shifted.
post-apocalyptic thing.
Yeah.
When this doesn't even seem like what I would consider "quote unquote" YA.
No, this is, I think, technically a middle grade book. Like, I think we all
To
read
tweeners?
it. Yeah, like the 3rd to 5th grade level.
Yeah, because it sounds more like the Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah,
it's
it's a
that
little-
level. The Giver is too. Like, I think now that they've kind of run through a whole bunch of the YA classics and new populars, they're digging into the old guard middle grade books.
Did you ever read any of those books like Harry and Hortense at Hormone High and The Pigman and Hatchet and
That's
The
weird.
Crazy Horse Electrica? You never read all
No,
those?
that's just
oh,
you.
Man.
Those are weird, like Amish books. I've never heard of any of
No.
those. They scare me.
Okay, well.
And my
you know.
mom was a children's book reviewer, so I thought we had books.
My God, I think your mom just wrote weird books and
I
was like,
didn't-
"It's real, son. Read
I didn't
it."
make it up. Maybe Mr. Shearer made them up in 7th grade. But,
It's called Hatchet.
Yeah. No, that was one where the guy gets like stranded in the wilderness in Canada. Gary Paulson. Thank you,
Real,
Luke.
it's real.
Gary Paulson. Paul Zindel was another guy. Chris Crutcher wrote all those great young adult sports books. I've got release dates from now through 2020 to get all of these books made into movies.
Yeah, I don't think they gave those books to the 10 to 12-year-old girls, obviously, at my
Yeah.
school. Maybe only the boys read those. Well, I'm excited for Wrinkle in Time. It is a very weird book,
It's
though,
very weird.
and so it might come out very weird on screen. So I'm curious to see how they, how she brings a good spin to this.
It also feels like there's enough. Like you said, it is a bit of a weird. I remember thinking it was weird when I read it in 5th grade or whatever. But so it is one of those books that I feel like it will change fairly drastically by the time it gets to screen.
Yeah.
So there'll be parts of it that it'll focus on more than the other parts, and so it's not gonna go A, B to C the way that the book does. It'll
Yeah.
work its way around somewhere else.
Now,
but-
it's also part of a quartet that of sequels that are not particularly sequely.
and
the
if there's
third
one
book.
thing that Hollywood loves more than established,
Talking about a franchise.
Are we going into Golden Compass
established
territory?
franchise content.
Like A Wind in the Door, I think was a
Yeah, that was
fairly
another one.
what was it? Wind in the Door was a fairly sequel.
I think the last one in the series, wasn't it called like Another Wrinkle?
No, it was a swiftly tilting planet.
Oh yeah, that's
and
that's so the Hollywood sequel, isn't it?
That's definitely one where you're gonna have to split the sequel into two because there's just so much that goes on in that book.
Well, they're gonna do that no matter what. If you have a franchise, the last one will be two movies. Like they're just announcing that they're gonna do this movie, and we're already assuming that they're gonna do 4 of them.
We also don't even know if it's going to be live action. It could be animated. Are there like George Washington and like other historical characters in it?
Not in this, and not in A Wrinkle in Time. No, they travel.
Just to the.
Why are you surprised by that?
Because that's like everything written for kids in time travel is like, oh, who's this guy? I'm George Washington. Hello, Sonny.
So
look at my teeth. Aren't they wooden?
Every kid's book about time travel is Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure.
No, it's educational in that it's a primer in quantum physics.
Yeah, it is.
They travel by wormhole.
There's a lot going on.
That's
in the book.
education.
So this is going to be the G-rated Interstellar.
Yeah.
Man, Farscape is such a rip-off of this.
It probably is. Well, look, I'm excited. I'm glad that they're doing it because it's certainly going to be something in the young adult space that is different and interesting, and it's going to be different than the Hunger Games and the Divergence of the world. So that's going to be really cool. Hopefully they do get to make 7 or 8 or 9 of them.
Yeah.
If we have time to go see them. I don't know if we're going to have time to go see them or not because we've got all these superhero movies.
I'll be too busy seeing Red Tornado.
So let us know in the comments down below what you're going to make time to go see over the next 5 years. Because
we want a complete list.
We want a complete list. Be thorough. There's plenty out there.
They don't have titles yet
in the next 5 years.
But they have release dates.
Right. Which unannounced DC title are you most excited about? Let us know in the comments down below and come back next time for more movie news on CineFix Now. Unannounced, Untitled?
No.
What did I say?
Announced, Untitled.
Look, I already said it. I'm not saying it again.
Announced, Untitled.
Unannounced,
Classic.
Untitled.
Awesome.
Rumored.
The
TBD.
Brands,
DC,
marketing,
Marvel
stock,
crossover event.
To be awesome.
Inflation.
All of those things are. I feel like all of those things are true.